Hi folks, Richard Rogers here with Iowa Firearms Coalition. I'm in the gallery of the Iowa House with two freshman legislators. This is their first session, Samantha Fett and Jason Gearhart, Representative Jason Gearhart. So let's start with the ladies. Samantha, this is your first session.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from, what your district is like, and about your campaign or why you chose to do this and how it's going.
All right. Well, yeah, I am a freshman legislator. This is my first term. I am from Warren County. I live in Carlisle, Iowa. And I got involved in politics because I was a school board member in a public school district and had lots of parents come to me and say, hey, we could do better in our education system. And so it really got me thinking about how I can make a difference. And so this seat opened up, there was a retirement, and I thought, you know what, it was time for me to run. So that's kind of the basics of why I got involved. But my husband and I, we've been big into 2A, different topics, and I know that I've connected with you in the past when I was working up here at the Capitol in the last few years, advocating for lots of different types of issues. I'm in marketing for a nonprofit, but I also do some advocacy work in the past. So not completely unfamiliar with the process here at the state capitol, but I am very excited to be here as a representative.
Well, thank you. And we are in kind of a noisy environment, so we might need to speak up just a little bit because of the background noise. Jason Gearhart, what about you? What's your district? Where are you from?
So I'm Jason Gearhart, and I'm also a freshman legislator this year. I live in Clayton County, Iowa, in Strawberry Point. In my normal day job outside of here, I work for the DNR as an environmental specialist, primarily wastewater treatment plant inspections and landfills, and if you burn tires, I'll come pay you a visit. One of the things that got me motivated to run, so most of my adult life has been dedicated to some form of service. I was in the military after high school. 9-ish years ago when I moved to the Strawberry Point area, I got involved in the community. COVID really frustrated me, which made me want to run for city council. So 4 years on the city council, a year on the school board, and just the opportunity to serve here at the state has been awesome. It's been a big learning experience. Military time and just me being a freedom-loving constitutional American, protecting our Second Amendment is one of the fundamental rights and one of the things I want to make sure we're doing here at the Capitol. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you for your service. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your military career? What branch, what service and branch?
Sure. So I spent 5 years in the Army as a military police officer and investigator, stationed in Korea and in the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Well, very good. Thanks for your service.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Samantha, you mentioned that you and your husband have been involved a little bit in the Second Amendment issues, and I know you and I have talked, and there were some particular things that your constituents made clear to you in that area that they'd like to see happen. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the biggest things is we have something called no gun-free zones, right? And so people always question, what does that really mean?
I call them phony gun-free zones, phony gun-free zones.
Well, if we have the Second Amendment and we have the right to bear arms, why do we have those? And so a lot of my constituents were asking about that, and particularly when we're dropping our kids off from school and picking them up. As individuals that carry all day long, how do you navigate that? How do you go through the pickup line and not be able to carry? And so what it was doing, there's a law against that. So what it was doing was prohibiting my right to carry my gun all day because I didn't want to break the law.
Right.
And
it's a felony.
It is. And so once we figured that out, we said, you know what, we need to get that changed. And so I was excited to come down here and get a bill going that would address that issue.
Well, thank you. And that is an area that IFC has been trying to tackle for a number of years. And this chamber, the House, passed a bill that included allowance for people with permits to drive, to have their gun at the ready while they're in the parking lots and driveways of the school. So while they're picking up and dropping off. They did that two years ago in a larger bill, an omnibus bill, that for various reasons wasn't taken up in the Senate, not because they were opposed to the idea, but various procedural things and so on that caused that bill to die. So we're back at it again this year, and we'll talk about that again in a minute because right now it's not looking good for that. Do you have anything your constituents talk to you about, Jason,
Just a lot of the same issues that Representative Fett brought up. The ability to keep possession of your firearm at all times. So when you're driving between work and home, and you have to drop your kids off or pick your kids up from school, people don't want to become a felon just because they want to use their constitutional freedom to carry a firearm, but then drop their kids off at school. So I was excited that this year that Representative Fett and I were able to co-sponsor a bill, and unfortunately it didn't get out of committee.
I wanted to point that out, that these two did sponsor the bill, that the provision that was in the larger bill 2 years ago was a standalone bill this time, and unfortunately it didn't make it through the committee process, and I guarantee you that IFC is not going to lay down and take this. If there's a way we can resurrect it in this session, we will. That's probably not very likely, but come the next session, we will be back at it, and I know this is going to happen. It's really only been 30 years, just under 30 years, because the bill that says you can't have a gun at school was only passed in 1995. And to me, 30 years is not very long ago. This is a new law. Before that, there was no law against having a gun at school. It was like any other place. And of course, the deal is that I don't know how many schools even have a sign on it that say no guns allowed, but that's just a sign. There's a law that says you can't have a gun there, and I guess some people think that just having that law there, people with bad intent will say, well, I can't take a gun there, so I won't do it. It doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
Another big initiative that for the first time this year, IFC has backed a bill to lower the age for a permit to carry weapons, essentially to the ability to possess weapons, to 18 from 21. So we've had a situation forever where persons 18 to 21, 18 through 20, 18, 19, 20-year-olds haven't been allowed to have a handgun. The law doesn't actually prohibit that so much as it says no one may make available to a person of that age group a handgun. And yet we also allow people from other states. Nobody here made available to them a handgun. If they come here with a handgun, they can carry it. Since 2011, January 1st, 2011, when shall issue went into effect, anybody with a permit, anybody in that age group with a permit from another state, and there are many states that will issue permits to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they were allowed to carry since 2011. But our own young adults, because they can't obtain a handgun from anybody, aren't allowed to possess or carry a handgun. And we think that this bill will move through. We were really pleased. You're on the Judiciary Committee, Samantha. That moved through your committee the other day with all the Republicans voting for it and 3 of the 7 Democrats voted for it. And we think we'll see bipartisan support when it comes to the floor.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a lot of great discussion about it. I think it's time to allow those younger individuals to express their Second Amendment rights. There's no question on that. And so you saw that with the bipartisan support, and we're looking forward to it coming to the floor.
Yeah. I think, Jason, you'd probably agree that these young adults are adults in every other aspect.
For sure. I know I was 19 years old when I joined the Army, and I carried a handgun. And if I can potentially die for my country serving, I should be able to utilize my Second Amendment right when I'm not in the military, I guess.
Why should a 20-year-old young mother who gets off work late at night, maybe in a bad part of town, and these people are starting their careers, so their socioeconomic level is not that great. So sometimes they live in a poorer part of town, a more crime-prone part of town where they're exposed to more possibility of violent crime. Why should she not be able, when she gets off work late at night, to have a handgun for protection, or have a handgun in her home to protect herself and her children? This is a law whose time is long since passed. It's long past time, and the courts have since August of 22. There have been many court cases that affirm the rights of young adults, and there's no way that this is going to be able to stand. I think in the next term, the Supreme Court will probably take a case involving this and resolve this in favor of the young adults. But Iowa needs to get ahead of it. We did not want to have our Attorney General have to stand up in court and try to defend the indefensible. So it's time to move on this. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk to our viewers about?
Well, I just want to say thank you to IFC for your partnership and working with new legislators to make sure we understand the process. And also, any constituents or people that support 2A, continue to communicate with your legislators to know, so they know that this is a priority. We want to make sure that we can spread the word and continue to gather support for any of these issues, and there's quite a few of them. So just want to say that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Folks, you can follow the progress of legislation here in the Iowa Capitol at our PAX site, the IFC PAX. So that's ifcpac.org. And of course, check out all the great content, videos, blogs, and so on at our regular website, iowafc.org. Thank you, folks, representatives. We really appreciate it and look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.